Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. In this video I'm going to take a look at what are some of the old school big Blizzard names doing now. People often say that okay, Blizzard may have lost some of its magic, and obviously Blizzard today is not the Blizzard of 10 or 15 years ago anymore, 20 years ago anymore, because people do change employees. There are some people who are still working at Blizzard. For example, Chris Metzen is currently working on World of Warcraft. Well, he went away and then he came back, so has been working at least at some times at World of Warcraft and currently working there. But there's also a bunch of Blizzard developers who are now doing some other things in the game industry. Obviously, games are built by lots of people, so there are hundreds of people who have contributed, and we only really get to hear about some of them. But I guess those names are still quite interesting, so what are they up to nowadays if they're no longer at Blizzard? First of all, we have Ben Brode and Hamilton Chu, two of the key people behind Hearthstone, who founded Second Dinner in April 2018 and started building Marvel Snap, and they are still both at Second Dinner and still building Marvel Snap. There was a rather illuminating story about the birth of Marvel Snap in Jason Schreier's book Play Nice that came out last year about the history of Blizzard Entertainment. So basically Ben Brode kept getting promoted until he got into too many meetings and he got bored and he wanted to be creating new stuff, and Hearthstone was of course being maintained and improved upon, but still that had already been invented, so he wanted to do something new. And then he and Hamilton, they started negotiating with Marvel, and then they had everything set in place, everything ready to go. Then they jumped ship, founded their own company, had the Marvel contract ready to go immediately, and started building Marvel Snap. So that sort of story. And Marvel Snap rose really quickly, but currently it's not doing super great. It's been on a downward slope at the moment. Then there's Frost Giant Studios, which is building the RTS game Stormgate, which is currently in early access. Stormgate maybe came into early access a bit in a raw state. People didn't like it that much. They have still been working on it a lot. Every 2 months there's a big update to the game, and the game has been improving a lot. So now we're basically waiting to see if they have enough money to keep going and improving it until it becomes good, or what's going to happen. Frost Giant Studios basically is the remnants of Team 1, the RTS team at Blizzard. Because the RTS team at Blizzard, they wanted to build an RTS game, but they were not allowed. They pitched everything. Tim Morton pitched everything at Blizzard. Warcraft 4, Starcraft 3, let me make a Call of Duty RDS or anything. But nope, Blizzard would not authorize another RTS game, so Morton left, founded a new company, and many of the old Team 1 members joined him, such as Tim Campbell, James Anhalt, Jesse Brophy, and many more. If you like RTS games, Stormgate is playable right now, and it has been improving, but it has had a bit of a rough start. Then Mike Morhaime, Blizzard's co-founder, long-time CEO. Mike Morhaime founded Dreamhaven, and Dreamhaven has become a haven for many former Blizzard employees. Dreamhaven has so far published one game of their own development. They are also publishing some games from other developers, which is Thunderfolk. It's this sort of couch or remote co-op RPG. You play with your phone as a controller. Action happens on the big screen. You can play remotely, so someone can stream the action to all the other players, but then it doesn't have any kind of lobby, so you still have to find players somewhere. This is led by Chris Sigati of StarCraft 2 and Hearthstone fame, so this company is basically full of old Blizzard employees. They also have another game coming soon, which is Wildgate, which is this sort of team-based shooter. It's actually going to release on July 22nd, so quite soon. It's developed by Dustin Browder of StarCraft 2 and Heroes of the Storm fame, and Jason Chase of Hearthstone fame. So yeah, Blizzard names just everywhere in Dreamhaven. In some ways, you could say that the old Blizzard already broke many, many years ago, because, for example, Patrick Wyatt left in 2000, one of the key people behind Warcraft, Warcraft 2, Starcraft, and he was one of the founders of ArenaNet. ArenaNet, the maker of Guild Wars, and that was one of the original places where ex-Blizzard employees moved to, one of the mass exoduses from Blizzard. Patrick Wyatt, after ArenaNet, after working on some Guild Wars games, worked at a couple of other game companies, and then founded One More Game, which has a new game coming this year, which is Swapmeet. That's a co-op roguelite shooter game. It's currently in playtesting, and it should have released this year. And looking at key minds behind iconic Blizzard games, you cannot ignore David Brevik, the key person behind Diablo and Diablo 2, the founder, the main person in Blizzard North, which was then shut down because they were not committed enough, because they didn't live at the office. Yeah, Blizzard was quite a terrible place to work at in the 90s. Anyway, Diablo North was still able to build Diablo and Diablo 2 without living at the office, so maybe it was Blizzard that was wrong. Anyway, Brevik has subsequently built several action RPG games. He has kept working on the genre, but with mixed results. After Diablo 2, probably his most well-received action RPG is It Lurks Below from 2019. It's an indie 2D retro-style action RPG, so a bit of a smaller game. But, I mean, it could be a fun game if you look for a little bit of Diablo-style action. He's currently the president of Skystone Games, where he builds new games, but nothing has been announced recently. Another pretty big Blizzard name of a more recent era is Greg Street, Ghostcrawler, who worked on World of Warcraft from 2008 to 2013, left to work on League of Legends and then a new MMO game at Riot, but he left Riot in 2023. Riot's MMO project has been going on for a long time. Ghostcrawler was leading it, then there was other leadership. Then in March 2024, the development was reset and they said that you wouldn't hear from it for several years. Well, they built something new and different. So we'll see. Riot really wants to make an MMO, but they just haven't decided what kind of MMO they want to make. Anyway, Ghostcrawler left Riot in 2023. He's currently the studio head of Fantastic Pixel Castle, and they're building a new MMO game as well since 2023, so for a couple of years so far, alongside some other familiar Blizzard names like Brian Holinka, who worked on World of Warcraft from 2012 until 2023. But MMO development cycles are notoriously long, so a couple of years in development, it might take a long time before we hear more about that one. Another old Blizzard developer who's still working on games is Bill Roper, who is a rare developer because he worked in Warcraft, Warcraft 2, StarCraft, and then also Diablo and Diablo 2 for Blizzard North, so he has experience from both sides of Blizzard. He has also worked at Cryptic and at Disney on games like Hellgate London, Epic Mickey 2, and Disney Infinity. And currently he's the founder and CEO of Lunacy Games, which is working on 3 games. They have this sort of Tulu theme going on, with codename Skinwalkers, which is an open-world crafting horror survival game set in an apocalyptic Old West. Then there's Hellgate Redemption, sequel to Hellgate London, and Innsmouth Mysteries. So yeah, Tulu all over the place, which is an action horror game. I don't know when any of these are coming out though, but yeah, if horror is your niche, then you might want to check those out. Riot is a big company with or without Blizzard, and obviously most of the Riot games have originally been developed by people who are not affiliated with Blizzard in any way, but many Blizzard devs have moved over to Riot. Riot pays much better and they're just basically poaching the best developers as they can. So for example, Augustin Ayala, Ixar, who used to be Hearthstone's game director, and he's currently the design director of League of Legends. Or Peter Whalen, Legendary Ferret, who used to also work on Hearthstone and then on an unannounced project, and he's currently the senior game director of Teamfight Tactics. So many of the top Blizzard developers nowadays have a big influence on where Riot's games are going. Another one of these original ArenaNet employees is James Finney, who used to be the lead designer of the original StarCraft, and then he worked on Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 at ArenaNet. He's currently the co-founder and CEO of Lost Lake Games since 2021, but they have no announced games at the moment. And for a company as iconic as Blizzard, there are of course many other legendary names, some of whom I don't know what they're up to right now. For example, Jeff Kaplan, known for World of Warcraft and then especially for Overwatch, left Blizzard in 2021, has not surfaced since. Tom Chilton worked really hard on World of Warcraft, was the game director of Warcraft Rumble, left in November 2024, no word of him since. Alan Adham, one of the co-founders of Blizzard and played a key role in many of their games, left again in January 2024. He had been away from Blizzard already previously. And some of the old Blizzard developers also work as independent consultants now, so they don't work just on one game, but they sell their services, such as Eric Dodds, famous from World of Warcraft and Hearthstone. He actually worked on Thunderfolk at Dreamhaven, and now he's an independent consultant. And also David Kozak from World of Warcraft, from Hearthstone, another independent consultant. So that was a bit of a look into what are some of the iconic designers from Blizzard doing right now. And well, the game development cycles are long. It's not like you can just jump into a game designed by them, although you can do a couple of games. There's obviously Stormgate, the RTS game, and then there's Wildgate, the team-based shooter, coming really soon. And Swapmeet, a co-op roguelite shooter, should also be coming this year. So that's what I've got from old Blizzard devs. And obviously with Rumble going into maintenance mode, my search for a new game, I suppose, will continue still beyond this. But it was interesting doing some research into whether there are cool games coming from any of these people. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.